This is bellwork for November 15th and 16th. On number 1, we're going to use a quadratic formula to solve 4x squared minus 13x plus 3 is equal to 0. And here's a quadratic formula. And we just plug the numbers in. So the first right here, this is A, this is B, and this is C. So we're going to do negative B, which means negative 13, plus or minus square root of b squared, so negative 13 squared, minus 4 times a, which is 4, times c, which is 3. And the whole thing is over 2 times a, so 2 times 4. So negative 13 is positive 13, plus or minus square root of negative 13 squared, which is 169, minus 4 times 3, and 2 times 4 is 8. Okay, so then we're going to go ahead and multiply. So we have 13 plus or minus square root of 169, minus 4 times 4 is negative 16, and then negative 16 times 3, which is negative 48. So we're going to end up with 13 plus or minus square root of 169 minus 48, so 121, and over 8. So let's split this into two problems. We'll do 13 plus square root of 121, which is 11, over 8. And then we're going to do 13 minus 11 over 8. So 13 plus 11 over 8, which is equal to 24 over 8, which is 3. And 13 minus 11 over 8, which is 2 over 8, which is equal to 1/4. On number 2, we're going to simplify square root of 60. And to simplify square roots, we find all the factors and we look for perfect squares. So we'll start by finding factors of 60. Is 1 and 60, 2 and 30, 3 and 20, 4 and 15, 5 and 12, and then 6 and 10. Okay, so we're going to look for the biggest perfect square in this list, if we can find one. And I see 4. And then let's keep going. And it looks like 4 is it. Alright, so we're going to split 60 into 4 times 15. So we end up with square root of 60 equals square root of 4 times square root of 15. 4 is a perfect square, so square root of 4 is 2, and then square root of 15 we're just going to leave alone. On number 3, we're going to solve x squared plus 25 is equal to 81. And they want an exact answer, so no decimals. So first thing we're going to do is subtract 25 from both sides. And we'll get x squared is equal to 56. Then do square root on both sides. So we're going to get x is equal to square root of 56. Now we want to see if we can simplify that any. So we're going to do factoring for 56, see if we can find some perfect squares. So 56 factors into 1 times 56, and 2 times 28, then 4 times 14, and then 7 times 8. Okay, so let's look at the list and see if we can find any perfect squares. And we do find one, it's 4. So we're going to do square root of 56, which is equal to square root of 4 times the square root of 14 and that's going to equal 2 times the square root of 14. And since we're solving for x, we're going to get plus or minus that. So plus or minus 2 times square root of 14. Number 4, we're going to find the slope. And this is still one that's confusing a lot of people. So we have f of 6 is equal to -1. That's how we would read that first one. So what we're doing is we're taking the 6, we're putting it in to the function. So the 6 is the x value, is the input. And then what we get out from the function is the y value. We don't know what the function is, but we know the results of it. Okay, and same thing on the other one. We're putting in the 3, so it's the x, and we're getting out the 8, so it's the y. So what we end up with is 2 ordered pairs. We have 6 and -1, and 3 and 8. Let's erase that. Okay, and then to do slope, we use a slope formula, which is y2 minus y1, or x2 minus x1. And here's x1, here's y1, here's x2, here's y2. So y2 is 8, y1 is -1, x2 is 3, x1 is 6. So we'll get 8 minus the -1, which is the same as 8 plus 1 is 9. And then 3 minus 6 is -3. And so we end up with 9 over -3, which is just -3. Okay, let's do number 5. Number 5 says simplify 35 minus 10q times -2/5. So to do this one, we're going to do distributed property twice, or just distributed property. We're going to distribute the -2/5. So it's going to be -2/5 times 35, and then it's going to be -2/5 times -10q. So we'll start -2/5 times 35, and we'll turn that into a fraction, put 1 underneath, and then just multiply straight across. So 2 times 35 is 70, and 5 times 1 is 5. And then we'll simplify. 70 divided by 5 is going to be 14. And then we had a positive times a negative, so it's going to be -14. Okay, the other one's going to be -10q. So put a 1 underneath. And that's also times -2/5. So we'll go straight across again. And we'll get -10 times negative. Let's not worry about the negatives. The answer is going to be positive because it's a negative times a negative. So let's not even worry about it. 10 times 2 makes 20. And then q. 1 times 5 is 5. 20 divided by 5 is 4, so it's going to be 4q. So our answer is going to be -14 plus 4q.